Okay, so we continue with chapter 5, the contaminants. So the next topic is about the 4 mistaken views. So we have these 4. The first one is taking that which is impermanent to be permanent, where it arises from part of the view of the extremes. Part of it, that is the view of permanence. The second one is taking that which is suffering to be happiness. Well, the master Zhiming actually gave us a few examples to understand what does it mean by taking which is suffering to be happiness. It's like if it is something that truly, the logical reasoning behind this is that if it is something that truly makes us happy and we really enjoy it all the time, then that should keep its nature. Keep its nature. However, you cannot find such a thing in our daily life that will that can do it. So if you, let's say, if you have a food that you really like, it's your favorite food, and you can take it as a meal and then you're really happy about it. But if you keep eating that food for like every day and every meal, and very soon it will turn into suffering. So you see, there's no such a happy nature associated to that. It is not something that you will keep enjoying all the time. And also, the happiness in this world is like it's like we got a wound, we got injured, so we have a wound, which we feel pain daily, and would only feel a sort of comfort when occasionally we got some medicine, some herbs on the wound. So that would bring some comfort, and that comfort is only because we got a temporary relax from the pain, or the pain is alleviated. The pain is alleviated for a short while. And the question is, should we pursue this kind of comfort? Well, if a man or if a woman, if a person is intelligent, he might probably say no, because we should really cure that wound as soon as possible to get some real constant comfort. Or it's like a man carrying a burden of, let's say, 100 kilos on his shoulder, and he's walking in a dark mountain. By shifting that burden from his left shoulder to right shoulder, well, he might feel some slight relax for a while, but the burden is still there. Very soon he will feel pain again. So these are some advices, or some it gives us a bit more idea on the suffering or the happiness, so we can look through their nature in a better way. Therefore, we will not take which is suffering to be happiness. Then the third mistaken view is taking that which is unclean to be clean. For instance, our bodies. The blood, the bones, the urine, and the excretes, these are unclean. However, when they are covered by a skin layer, by a thin layer of our skin, we will possibly or mistakenly think that they are clean. So the second and the third mistaken views, like taking which is suffering to be happiness and taking which is unclean to be clean, these two arise from esteeming of views, because they take inferior factors as superior factors. So they belong to the esteeming of views. The last one, the fourth mistaken view, is taking that which is not a self to be a self. And by saying that, we mainly refer to by taking the 5 aggregates, so the aggregates of form, of sensations, of conception, of formations, and of consciousness, as a real self. And that we have explained, we have discussed also in chapter 3 when it comes to the dependent origination. And this view, this mistaken view, arises from the view of a self. And well, we do have 3 characteristics of mistaken views, and that explains why these 4 are established, are grouped as mistaken views. First, they are completely mistaken. They're always mistaken. There's no chance they could be right. And second, they are reflective judgment. So unlike those associated with our eye consciousness or our ear, nose, tongue, body consciousnesses, or some non-views. And these 4 are erroneous imposition. They are not negation views like the false views. So therefore, these 4 they are called mistaken views. We can also compare them with other defilements. For instance, the view of annihilation or the false views. These 2 are not called or are not grouped or categorized as mistaken views because they are not erroneous imposition. Rather, they are views of negation. They reject, they deny the existence of cause and effect. So they're not imposition, they're negation. So they're not grouped together with the 4 mistaken views here. And the esteem in morality and ascetic practices is not completely mistaken. A view must be completely mistaken before it can be considered as a mistaken view. So why is the esteem in morality and ascetic practices not completely mistaken? Well, certain ascetic practices of outsiders, though not conductive or leading to liberation, may somehow still be able to clean some obstructions. Like they do not, of course, they cannot lead sentient beings to nirvana or to liberation. There is a misunderstanding about it. However, they can still bring a practitioner away from some defilements temporarily. Therefore, they're not completely mistaken. Or if a Buddhist stick to the Pratimoksha discipline and take that as the eternal, as the final, as the best solution to be liberated, we cannot say it is a right view, right? It is not a right view. However, it can still protect this practitioner away from many risky actions. So it is not always mistaken, and therefore the esteem in morality and ascetic practices is not grouped here as a mistaken view. And other defilements that are not reflective judgments, like for instance the greed, the hostility, and so on, they're not views. They're not reflective. So of course they're not mistaken views. So all these, for different reasons, they are not established as mistaken views. And Master Zhimin, he also advised something else. I'll try to quote, or I'll try to rephrase. He said that these four mistaken views are actually possessed by all ordinary beings. Now that we learn from Buddha and Dharma that, and we know that these are mistaken views, so we got a chance to gradually march towards the right path. And those who do not believe in Buddha or the Dharma will find these very tasty in their daily life. For instance, those they believe that that is happiness or clean and so on. They find them very enjoyable and get deeply addicted. And he shared a story. The story is this story is also, if I remember correctly, this story is also recorded, is also written in that Mahavibhasha. And the story goes like this: there was once a king in his country. One day it came a rain, and that rain is poisonous. So all the rivers, the lakes, everything, all the water sources are polluted. And then all people drinking the water went mad, except the king himself, because he had an independent water source. He drank water from a very deep well inside his palace. So very soon he realized that all his people went mad. So he started to persuade his people to take some medicine and trying to recover. However, they don't listen. No one listened to him. And quite the opposite. All his people, all of them, started to think that their king was the only one that was crazy. So in the end, after a long while, the king could not stand it anymore, and he decided to. He cannot stand alone, and he cannot bear it anymore. That he was the only one. He was so lonely. So he started to drink the poisonous water, and he became just like his people. And now they're all happy. They're all mad. No difference. So. So for us who consider ourselves as followers of the Buddha and practitioners of the Dharma, this story might have some real meaning for us. Should we follow the mad people? Next, let's talk about the 7 types of pride, because we have discussed the view of a self. And we also have this mistaken view that take which is not self to be a self. And usually we would also say that pride always and very often, if not always, goes to the front to speak for ourselves, to speak for our ego. Well, if that is a term of psychology. But what is pride? Well, Abhidharma divided into 7 types. This is a very good classification. So the first kind is, we call it just pride, by thinking I'm superior to an inferior, or I am equal to an equal. If you just look at the words, it doesn't sound any problem. It sounds all right, right? You are superior? Okay, you're superior to an inferior. It matches the reality. That's the reality. It's okay. And if you think you are equal to another one, and you think that I am equal to that to the other person, which also matches the reality. So what is the problem? Why is it still called pride? Why is it still a defilement? So the problem is the mind. It is an uplifted mind. It's not a how to say? It's not a the mind is uplifted, so it's not really a good mind. It's a defied one, and the mental status as well. Therefore, it is called pride. And the next one is overpride, by thinking I'm superior to an equal, or I'm equal to a superior. Well, this one is worse, because it's even not objective at all. It doesn't match the equality. It doesn't match the reality, right? Therefore, it's more serious than the pride. And the next one, extreme pride, by thinking I am superior to a superior. And this one, of course, even worse, totally insane. The next one is called ego pride, by taking the 5 aggregates of clinging as self and mine. Well, this is, of course, not a view of a self. This is not a view itself, but because it is not reflective. It is a kind of pride, but arising from the attachment of self and mine. For instance, my birthplace, my talent, my appearance, my fortune, my family, and so on. Now, they think that this is related to me and mine. This is called ego pride. Next one is inferior pride, by thinking I'm slightly inferior to someone actually greatly superior. Other people are, in fact, much superior than us, while we think we are just slightly inferior. We're not that bad. We're pretty close to them. For instance, if I say, or if I think that I'm just slightly inferior, but actually very close to Vasubandhu when it comes to Abhidhamma, then you will immediately know that I have this inferior pride. Because I'm not close to him, I'm not just slightly inferior to him. Okay, I think that's a good example. And the next one is called exaggerating pride. By thinking, I possess the distinctive attainment connected with meditation, while one has at most some similar qualities. So the distinctive attainments connected with meditation, for instance, the dhyana samapatis or the great perfection, well, even a great perfection and so on. So they don't really have it, but they feel so good about themselves and they mistakenly think that they actually have obtained it. But they don't. And they don't know that they haven't obtained it. Therefore, it's exaggerating pride. We have to differentiate this one from the false claim of spiritual attainments. That is to say, if someone doesn't know that he doesn't really have the kind of quality, or for instance, a dhyana meditation. If a person is trying to cultivate dhyana meditation, he hasn't got it yet, but he feels so good about himself. He has some sort of pliancy, bodily and mentally, and he thinks he has obtained the dhyana meditation, and he tells you he thinks that he has got it. Well, that is exaggerating pride. He hasn't got it, but he doesn't know about it. However, if he does know that he hasn't obtained the dhyana meditation, and he tried to tell people that he has it. He wants people to believe that he has the dhyana meditation and so on. That is not exaggerating pride. That is a lie. He did it purposely. He said it purposely. So that is totally different story. That is false speech. Okay, so I want you to know the difference between the two. And the final type of pride is called false pride. By thinking I possess some spiritual qualities while one does not possess at all, or even possess the opposite. And I do have some examples for you. For instance, there are some gangsters, those who, in those movies, those gangsters who carry out really bad or notorious actions while they think they are the best. And they think they are above everyone. They are even above the law. No one can control them, right? So this is a typical false pride. Or some outsiders think that bad actions like killing have true merits. They don't think killing is a bad action. They don't think killing will give rise to some really unpleasant retributive effect. Quite the opposite. They think killing have merits. One should kill as much as possible, as many as possible, and that they are really good in accumulating merits in that way. So they believe that if you kill more, you have more merits. This kind of thinking we can say that it is a kind of false pride. Or maybe a thief who thinks that he himself is the best thief with the best techniques, and he's better as compared to his fellows, to his partners, and so on. And this is also a false pride. So now we have explained the 4 mistaken views and 7 types of pride. Next, we can continue with the 3 bad roots, and they are greed in Kamadhatu. When I say greed in Kamadhatu, please be aware that sometimes, like we follow the Buddha's teaching, and we have a big faith. We have faith in Buddha and Dharma, and we also have a desire in cultivating good Dhammas. But please be aware that this kind of desire in good Dhammas and accumulating more merits and wisdom, that is not a greed in Kamadhatu, because it can trigger and enhance our faith and our discernment due to the hearing and the reflection and cultivation. It is good for us, and we really need that kind of desire in good dhammas, so we can accumulate merits in this period, at this time, before we are enlightened. So it is absolutely necessary in the beginning, and before we can go further. So the three bad roots. The first one is greed, which is absolutely bad in Kamadhatu. It's a defilement, and it is a bad one. And also the next one is hostility. Well, every time we say hostility, there's needless to say, and it is not necessary to explain. It is definitely in Kamadhatu. It's always bad, and it only exists in Kamadhatu. You can't find it in the two upper realms. Then we also have this the last one. The last bad root is ignorance in Kamadhatu, except that associated with the two non-defined views. What does that mean? Because ignorance as a defilement, as one of the generally permeating benefactors, if you still remember, ignorance as one of the mental factors that can associate with other defilements, with other mental events. It can associate with different type of mental events. However, if it is associated with the two obscured and non-defined views, which are the view of a self and a view of the extremes, then the nature of that ignorance is not bad, but obscured and non-defined as well, because it is associated with the obscured and non-defined views. So the ignorance in Kamadhatu, and except that kind of ignorance associated with the two obscured and non-defined views. Then the question is, why the view of a self and the view of the extremes are obscured and non-defined views? Why are they not just bad views? The reason is that with these two views, it is not necessarily bad, because one may hold a discipline in a way to think that I can hold disciplines for the liberation of myself, of a self. Or one may accumulate merit, so a permanent me can be saved, or will get liberated when maybe in a later time, maybe when next Buddha comes. So these two, you cannot say they're bad. You cannot say they're bad in nature, but they are confused in the truth, and they're not harming other people. They're not harming other beings. So therefore, they are obscured. They're definitely obscured. You can say they're defiled, but they're not bad. So they're obscured and non-defined. It's very important to know that. So these three are classified as the greed in Kamadhatu, the hostility, plus the ignorance in Kamadhatu. These are the three bad roots. So why these three? First of all, they are exclusively bad. They're always bad. They can never be good or non-defined. And second, they are defilement. They are the fundamental contaminants, they belong to the 6 or 7 or 10. And they're not subsidiary defilements, which we will discuss in the next lecture. And they are roots to all bad dhammas. All bad dhammas, everything bad can arise from these three. That's why we call them the bad roots, or the roots of all bad factors. Okay, that's for now in this lecture, and we do have some exercises as well for this lecture. Hopefully, it helps you to understand these topics. And indeed, these topics can be really related to our minds, to our mental events. It can be really related to our daily practice. For instance, if one day you start to reflection, and then you realize, it turned out that I have one kind of pride, and that pride is a big problem for me. I should cure them. I should do something to counteract that kind of pride. So this is the good thing about hearing and reflection, or mistaken views, or these bad roots, for example. So Yeah, this is for now, and this is for this lecture. Here are the exercises. In our next lecture, we will start working on Sosibadin's view on all-time experiences, on all-time existence. And we will also talk about causes for contaminants to arise. We'll talk about 5 lower and 5 higher feathers. Yep. And subsidiary defilements as well. Okay, that is for now.